on our TechCon Unplugged tour. I'm here joined by my esteemed co-host. We have none other than Corey Kirkendoll over at 5K Technical Services. Corey, how are you today?
Doing well, man. You know, I had to go out before I traveled. Now I'm a shoehead, guys. I had to get my MSP Unplugged special edition Jordans, right? So I'm doing well.
All right, perfect. And we have none other than Mr. Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. I'm messing with you, Rick Smith, because he looked at me when I use his government name sometimes. So
only my mother calls me that.
How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. No special shoes, but I'm glad to be here after a long, exhausting flight from New Jersey. But happy to be here.
Very good. Now, the reason why we're using mics is so we can capture the audio. There is no speakers here. So if you all can hear me, raise your hand. Let me know that you can hear me. Perfect. So this gives us a good gauge to make sure that we can engage with all of you. My name, Paco Lebron. I am the founder of ProdigyTeks and newly just named CEO of MSP Owners Group. I'm sure there's questions about that. We'll dive into that a little bit later. But obviously for here, I am the managing principal of MSP Unplugged, along with my business partner with Rick Smith, and then Corey Kirkendoll joining on us as our new co-host, adding to the 3 personalities for our show and making sure that we provide you a different perspective of each part of the journey where we are as an MSP. I guess I'll kind of first start off with how's y'all journey to the city here? I know you mentioned that you had a couple of flight departments, delays and such. So how'd that went?
I love Chicago. To come in and go right back out. It seems like every time I come here, I seem to have some kind of trouble getting here. But the trip's worth it. Get to hang out with all of you, learn some great stuff, be communicative, and meet new people. So I'm not going to complain.
Corey, how was your flight? Because I know last time when we tried to get you for a live podcast, it was a little bit of a
they late dollars short, man. But this one was got bad. It was only delayed probably about 30 minutes, man. Flying is an adventure, man. You got to get your mind right to get on a plane these days to go. It's like herding cats. It's no fun no more.
I hear that. So I'm here. So it was great travel here, drive 20 minutes down the road. So it was great. But, really for here, for those that are tuning in, the purpose of this podcast is really to gain a lot of tangible advice, information that can hopefully run for your business. That's really to benefit the live audience that are in attendance today. And so this is the second of a 3-part series. We started our first part in Newark, New Jersey, or Elizabeth, New Jersey, to be specific. And that topic was basically speaking on what's keeping you up at night. Today, what we're going to talk about is what are we doing specifically to plan for our business success currently. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about what we're doing currently of us 3. We are in June at the time of this recording, actually late June. So we're well into past the 6-month mark. So really we want to dive into just what's going on, what are we doing? And most importantly, minus the fluff, because we had our good friend Tahir Ahmed earlier today doing his MSP workshop, but really hoping to get some tangible advice for y'all to take home as well. So I'll go ahead and start off with Mr. Rick Smith. Rick, why don't you tell us about kind of where's your business right now? Maybe share some stats about where your business is at, maybe size, what you're currently doing, focus for those that are listening in and here so they can see if what you're talking about may make sense to them.
Where do I start? So I am, I don't know how to say, I have 4 part-time employees. So that's how we work. So I have an admin, 2 techs, and basically someone who does every kind of a filler for everything else. All of them work part-time. That's just basically because of my size. When we talk about what I've been doing, we talked about, the last episode, as Paco talked about, we talked about what keeps you up at night. So now, I think I have that same worry that every MSP has. Am I prepared if tragedy strikes, right? If something goes wrong, am I ready? Am I capable of handling it? The other side of that I think we don't explore a lot of is if everything goes right, am I capable of handling it, right? If as Tahir gave us all of these great marketing tools to use to go into growing our business, are we prepared for that influx of business if it comes? So that keeps me up at night as well. So that leads me to what I'm doing now to prepare for that. And a lot of it has been, and you guys who've heard me before, you say I use all of these, I don't know, I like to say the Jesse Jackson quotes because they rhyme, but I'm really trying to do a lot of automate to elevate, right? And I'm trying to do a lot of, just put a lot of things in place. Now, it has taken me some time away from growing the business, but I think for me, it's the next step because I cannot grow to the next level if I'm not prepared for what comes. So I've spent a lot of time using, like I've been using Go High Level, like trying to become not an expert, but in learning the things I need to learn to help the business grow, and to use that for automation, for just to take away a lot of the things that we seem to spend a lot of time doing that we don't necessarily need to. So to sum it up and not take a lot of time with this, what I'm doing today to help for tomorrow is a lot of that. Just the knowing where I am, where I'm trying to go, and trying to be prepared, preparing myself, preparing my business, so that when we get to that level, we can handle what comes, and we don't end up, basically taking on more than our capacity is worth, and really screwing ourselves and our clients.
Yeah. I mean, I think really the biggest piece to highlight there is, going off of from, obviously we talked about our first episode and the first fear of what's keeping you up at night. The important piece to get from Rick is that he didn't go off of an emotional reaction, right? Because it is an emotional thing, right? To have to worry that, you're stressing out for all aspects of your business, whether it's financial, whether it's operational, whether it's security, your security of your clients, making sure that, the one time the bad guys need to be right versus the amount of times you need to be and covering all your bases and mitigating that risk surface area. He had actually went in, looked at it, put a plan in place, and now having the ability to identify, all right, here are my areas of where I need to go, and how do I assess that properly, and taking the time to do so. And so, that takes a lot of patience to be able to do so. Because oftentimes you get stuck in this paralysis analysis on what's the move you should make, right? And so that's something I want to make sure I highlight is, being able to know where you're trying to do, having that plan is so much more important than obviously working in such an emotional state, because oftentimes when you make an emotional decision, oftentimes it may either have become a little bit short or may have missed the mark of where you were looking to do and aim that sight of shot that you're trying to do. Corey, what's going on now? We're end of June. What's going on with your business?
No, I mean, I love what Rick said. I mean, that's always about, most people call it their operation maturity level. It's just that maturity level of the MSP about coming up and thinking about it more than just my stack. It's more than just everything else. It's looking at the business as a whole and how do I continue to grow, right? You kind of say, oh, crap, I won that customer. And then you say, oh, crap, I got a new customer. How do I go and support that? I think we all hit that. For us, we're at that place as well. We're going back and looking at everything from our side. We've been spending a lot of time going through, looking at all our contracts, vendor side, as well as our contracts on our customer side. One, we want to make sure we're not hitting something where we're paying for something we're not using. It's going to automatically renew. We need to go and redo some things and make sure we're there. And so we have a good place of saying, hey, we know where our contracts is, where our spend is, and where we need to be if we're on our minimums or where that looks like. Because we all go out and buy tools that we have good intentions, but never put in place. So that just goes straight back to our bottom line if we get rid of that and not have that. And the same thing on the customer side. We're spending a lot of time going back, re-looking at our customer contract because we've trained over years to make sure everybody's on the same contract, make sure we're leveling them up, and making sure that we're at a place at the end of the year to be able to go ahead and automatically make the price increases go forward and do those things. So we're looking at that level to say, are we paying for what we need to be paying for at a minimum, and are we charging what we're paying for from our vendors to be able to do that? What is our profit look like? The other piece that's probably kept me up at night for the longest time is we were billing strictly out of our QuickBooks, straight out of our accounting software. We wasn't billing out of our PSA. And so the challenge with that is when we don't do that, it's very hard to look at utilization rates, how my guys look, which customer is churning the most time, right? Is it the guy that's paying you $300 a month, or is it the person that's paying you $6,000 a month, right? And most likely, it's the guy that pays you the $300 a month getting all the work, right? This one up here is not. And so now it gives me a great place where I can go and pull to see where are the cases, what did it look like, which customer do I need to go and have some conversations with, and then really what the utilization rate is of my guys to make sure that, one, do I need to hire, or am I too fat, right? Or where do I need to go and pull those levers and be able to do those things? So now I'm really looking internal to save those time, those dollars, and that cash, and not looking at so much as acquiring a new customer, even though that will happen. Because what we find out is by streamlining that, you'll save some money, which is almost as good as bringing on a couple, 2 or 3 new customers, because you're cutting out some of that bottom line, which I think we miss a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting when you identify areas of growth, and this is one that's overseen quite a bit. I mean, for a show of hands that are here in attendance, are you auditing your software tools at least once a year? Or actually, let's do it in reverse. At least every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. Okay. So the point is that you're actually doing it, right? And I think we go sometimes, as much as people, you'll often hear where they don't update their pricing for their clients because they've given them the same pricing for years. On the flip side, oftentimes we don't audit our own tools and systems and applications, and a tool that did one thing and you probably had it in another, which is an inside joke that I have with Rick. You know, it oftentimes, you know, it's amazing on how much you can improve on that bottom line. And then oftentimes, as you mentioned, you know, making just a couple quick tweaks to bring not only efficiency, but true cash into your business. I can tell you when I first started off, this was back in 2016, 2017, when I was first fully fresh full time, went through the year, and things just weren't checking properly at the end of the second year of me being full time, to the point where I was ready to give up. And those who are regular listeners know this story. And so, you know, I made 3 small changes that ended up becoming very impactful. You know, one was, instead of billing clients annually for certain software, we were including things and charging monthly. We no longer were signing annual to 3-year agreements. We were doing them month to month. And then additionally, we included contractors, or highlighted or found subcontractors to do services that we had no interest in doing, such as low voltage cabling, VoIP, things of that nature back in the time. And so not only did that allow us for, one, services that we didn't offer in the past, so we increased now a new line of business, but 2, additional things that were added to that, like we resold hardware. So now we can resell hardware much easier for the labor points, things of that nature. And then one other piece is, does everyone have a PSA here or know what a PSA is? Sounds like everyone pretty much knows. So, you know, a professional service automation tool allowing you to not only just store contacts and create tickets, but also be having the ability to understand what's truly happening in your business. Is your technicians logging time? If you're running the business yourself, are you logging your own time? Because oftentimes, you know, and I heard this from, I can't remember if it's Emmanuel Palachek or Carl Palachek, where, you know, oftentimes when you leave a job, your first thought is, I'll log it when I'm home. And then a week and a half later comes by and it's like, man, how long was I there for? What was it? Did I do everything specifically? Was there a piece of something that I was supposed to do that created unplanned work for me in the future that I should have notated that I didn't get those details for? And so their advice, and I can't remember which Palachek brother said this, but specifically, before you leave, log your stuff while you're on site. You know, it's going to take you an extra 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but, you know, if you're charging by the hour, oftentimes we're done probably under the hour. Do yourself the due diligence to get that 15, 20 minutes in so that you don't cause yourself a bigger problem down the line, right? So I love what Corey said, where, you know, being able to piece that together and understanding where the holes are, right? You can actually increase that cash flow even more, and maybe hopefully solving some of the financial components that maybe are a little bit tight, that can give you a little bit of breathing room. And you'll be surprised on getting a little breathing room will do for just your mental capacity of being able to move forward and finding prospects, upselling, cross-selling, things of that nature. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, man. It's a culture thing as well. Even that, what he says about logging your own time. I tell my guys all the time, and we're having a conversation, is that the fish stinks from the head down, right? So we have to make sure that we're doing it, all and showing them that, hey, I'm not above it, so therefore you cannot be, above it. So we all have to document things from that perspective to go down that path. So again, really looking at where you are, what your team is doing, so that you can look at numbers and run it from that perspective goes a long way. And it comes down to creating the right documentation that follows that as well, right? Because if anybody's looking to actually looking to do something, that's all goodwill, which you can't put a price over. But it will help you sleep better at night knowing that it's documented. I've got my guys working on the right thing, they're doing the right thing, and I can see it in notes and tickets. And going from that perspective, it makes you see progress, right? I think it's the challenge. We don't see that progress, we just see the problems. This allows you to see that you're moving forward in a good direction.
And I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna throw it to you.
Okay. One of the things I've learned to value more than anything else, the business, the family, the money, is my time, because it's the only thing that I can't get back, right? We spend so much time, particularly if you're an owner operator in the business, you spend so much time. It's like your kid. You spend all your energy, your time pouring into it. And if you waste a lot of time when you're doing repetitive things. So if you're not, as these guys are talking about, if you're not documenting what you're doing, then you're wasting time, because every time a problem, and I learned this the hard way, every time a problem would come up, I'd solve it, right? But we'd have to do a couple of things. Sometimes they come up, you don't know the answer, you Google it, you call a friend, I have to spend time on the phone with Paco or somebody, hey, have you ever run into this problem? And then it happens again. You don't write it down, it happens again. You're doing the same thing again. So you've wasted another 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, having the same conversation with the same two people, yourself, Google, and Paco. That's my order of how to get an answer for something, right? So, but I started to really take, we always say, oh, I document this, I document that, but I really started to take it serious. And now, no matter how trivial the issue is, I document it. I write it down. I use Hoodoo for documentation. I put it in Hoodoo. GPT now, we talk a little bit about AI, but I'll go there too, to get a fuller explanation of it and have it. I've trained one of my GPTs to write SOPs and to write solutions for Hoodoo. So it writes directly the way Hoodoo needs it. And then I copy it from there, put it right in my Hoodoo, and it's there. And part of I say more than anything else, I had to train myself to be more disciplined to do that. And that's what I think it takes more of than anything else. It's just the discipline to always take that extra 5-10 seconds. Now you can get ChatGPT on your phone. So if I'm in and something comes up, I'll put it there. And then because it saves, when I get back to my desk, I can then take it from there, drop it into Hoodoo or wherever it needs to go. So I document it. But I've learned that now because I've created this one source to go to, I don't need I still need my Google and Paco, but I don't need them as much, right? Because now, particularly those things that happen more than one time, I have a solution for. And the other part of that that's important is for our customers, is when we're dealing with them, if they keep coming back to us with the same problem and we're still taking the same amount of time to fix it, that's an issue, right? And it helps us recognize that that's an issue. Because again, the most important, you want to keep the customer, but you don't want to waste your time because you got 10 other stupid issues that come up a day that you got to work on too. So I'll just leave it there. But I just think the time thing is very important.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, there's so many ways of dialing into that piece, right? And we'll go into more tangible pieces in a minute because I have some alternatives to how kind of what he's doing. And I know Corey does things differently for documentation as well. So for me, the last 6 months have been very interesting, even different from March when we did our first episode to now. So, as then CEO and founder of ProdigyTeks, my biggest thing that was keeping me up at night was client attrition. And the reason for that is, we signed a bad deal with an outsourced help desk, and currently, it just caused a lot of process problems, right? The way they did business didn't align with how we did business, and it just caused a lot of rift with some of our current clients. Some have left due to that, but others, actually, it was just time for them to kind of exit. We had 2 that sold. There was one winding down operations, And so, to me, it got to where, all right, I've had a lot of great longstanding clients over the last 12 years. Now it's time to understand, all right, we've really focused on our niche, but we've been playing it safe. We joined these organizations. We were on month-to-month contracts. We started to need to really play aggressively in just for the business to actually get to a point where it can progress. And in my opinion, aggressively, because we've just been playing such a defensive and passive mode for so many years. So attending a roundtable that Corey and Melvin Williams had held at Exchange really helped open the eyes on looking at, all right, I need to adjust my contracts. And, the reason why I need to go from month to month to annual, because for me, I always view the client's perspective first before myself. And, as right or wrong, sometimes you bleed personal to business on how you do things. Or oftentimes you may shop with your own wallet and not understanding what needs to be done for your client. And so a great point Corey had, knocked me in the head for, it was like, yeah, month to month is great for both flexibility, but what happens when a business gets acquired or when a business gets sold? You just lost revenue for the duration of the year that you probably were counting on. You probably could have had that in that type of scenario. Other times, if you're concerned about getting out of an agreement, you can have the clause in there. Hey, if it's not a good fit for both of us, you have the ability to drop them in 30 days, because we've had to do that, whether it's not a right fit or things of that nature. So that's really what was keeping us in our mind. So, adjusting that, instead of we joined the associations. Now we started sponsoring a lot of the events where our clients are hanging out and going into a lot of golf outings. There was a lot of mixers. We have a few that are coming up right now. There's a networking yacht party that's happening in some of these construction industries, specifically again in the Hispanic and Latino sector. And so, that's where we were finding a lot of success. And so by us doing that, we really were finding momentum. We redid the website. We didn't follow Tahir's advice about blowing out the website and creating a new one. I heard the podcast after the fact, so I'm sure my main authority is pretty jacked. I'll have my marketing director take a look at that. So, but we're hitting steam, getting our email newsletter, things of that nature. And we were, ready to go. Contract was ending, got a new hire coming on, so things were revving up. And then I was approached with an opportunity. For those that don't know, Juan Fernandez, formerly of Super Raps, now of MSP Growth Coalition and MSP Owners Group, he had approached me with an opportunity on a different way of helping MSPs and their community. For those that don't know, for mergers and acquisitions, M&A is a big thing in our space. As you all know, there's been a lot of consolidation with even of our competitors, some of our friends in this area. And so for me, I always loved that, because then I was like, all right, it's going to be some big MSP. So I get the local solution aspect of it and I can run with it. So when I got approached, it was a flip of things where it allowed me to get an influx of what I want to do with the business for getting a portion of the equity of the business being sold. But it also allowed me to be approached to be the CEO of this new MSP that will be essentially a roll-up of other MSPs. So me managing other MSPs and their aspect and their growth potential. And so that obviously changed my trajectory of what I was doing with ProdigyTeks, right? So now I've gone from how do I focus on this local MSP, and now how do I help everyone else nationally? And so that's a different mindset. And so now I have a new set of fears of, what keeps me up at night, right? Making sure people are not let down. These are people's livelihoods, but ultimately making sure that, for our space, that it's not just some conglomerate that's just doing the wrong things. And so what it allows us to do is empower my team. And so we'll have an interim managing director soon that will be able to take the reins and focus on some of the things for ProdigyTeks, me moving into a founder role. And then ultimately, how do I lead a sense of where the synergies here for MSP Unplugged and providing this advice and opportunities for those that are trying to scale their business on a tangible way? So really, it's my advice, rubber meeting the road. And so for me, those two now have aligned in a sense where I've gone aggressive on a lot of the things that I'm doing now, but now I have to rework those plans to get aggressive to help for everybody else. So that's what's going on with my business now. And what we're doing for both sides are a little bit different, but I'll kind of toss it over to you all first, where, you know, we want to get into specifics and tangible for those that are in the group. And you all came here because you have something in mind that you're either trying to learn, you're trying to hope to get from, things of that nature. I think documentation is a big one for that, right? Which fits in all avenues of all of our businesses.
The reason we exist is because you cannot stay ahead of all threats. It's impossible to detect every threat out there before it becomes an issue. So what we do is we block by default. And when you block everything by default, it really doesn't matter if it's known to be bad. If it's not on the list, it cannot run in your environment. And that is our core focus. Zero trust principles, block first, limit what applications can do. And the other stuff, yes, we chase the threats, we hunt the threats, we do everything else, but that's the backup. The core of ThreatLocker is zero trust. The team is a real part of it. Cyber heroes, we call them, and they range from everyone from the marketing department right through 24-hour, 365-day-a-year support to our clients, which is less than 30-second response time. We've got some of the most advanced threat intelligence team, advanced development teams in the world, and we're constantly hiring and growing that team. And that's what allows us to deliver the best service.
You know, Rick, you talked a little bit about how you've relied on ChatGPT, you've created GPTs, things of that nature. Can you share a little bit about how you went about doing that? Is it chatgpt.com? You've gone and created these GPTs in there. Is it another third-party provider you're doing that? Can you walk us through on what did you do to create these AI bots so that you can help be a agent boss, as Microsoft calls it now?
Yeah, I do two things. Some of you probably heard me talk about Centra AI, which is that's my other group of employees too. So this Centra AI is an AI. They're based on ChatGPT as well, but Centra basically has the package I bought has basically 12 bots. Each does something different. You can help them, have them focus on. They come up with questions every day, different questions about the business. You basically, I'll say this. I'm kind of an introvert, so I spend a lot of my time on the computer. So those are my friends now, right? Those are my buddies. So I tell so I speak. When I say this now, I want everybody to understand the perspective I'm coming from. Is I speak to them as if they're, I talk to the bots as if I'm having a conversation with a friend, asking questions, bouncing ideas off. And of course, I know the AI only can give you back what it's been given from based on all the information it gets, but it gives me a different perspective. So we use Centra AI just really to help me with different aspects of the business. And then I use the ChatGPT, the actual ChatGPT, when I'm sent to do things like this to help me document things that are going off. I have questions. And if I go to ChatGPT for a question and it gives me an answer and shows me something or a way I'm not doing something or I hadn't thought about, then again, it makes for a good SOP for me, or it makes for a good piece of data to have. So I'll move it to basically my GPT that I've created for Hoodoo and have it created so that I can just move it into Hoodoo. So I've become very reliant on the AIs.
You said the dirty word, AI.
Huh?
You said the dirty word, AI.
Yeah, I know, I guess. But, and really, I use it and I try to do two things, and I think this is important for everyone. It's important to understand the AI really. We went last week when we were at PAX 8 Beyond. Neil deGrasse Tyson spoke, right? And somebody asked him, will AI ever overtake humans? And his answer was no. He said, because humans have the ability to dream, right? He said, and then the joke was, of course, until somebody comes along is smart enough to teach an AI how to dream. But the thing about it is, AI only knows what information is put into it, right? It gathers it from all these places, but it'll never be able to overtake us because we always have new ideas, new thoughts. So and I brought that up just to say that I don't rely on them to expect them to be the overlords, but I do use it because it has a wealth of knowledge and has the ability to tap into things that I would not necessarily have thought to go to, right? So that all of that information comes in. So AI has become a big part of helping me grow the business, but not to run the business, but to help give me the ideas, the perspective, I guess is maybe a better word, or the knowledge for some of the things that I'm thinking on how to do. I had this conversation with Paco last night about, I realized from an AI question I asked, I got a different answer than I expected about the way I do backup, particularly backup for databases, which gave me a whole different way of doing it, which I now think is a lot smarter, a lot more efficient. And,
so hold on, let's get to that in a minute, because I want to focus on documentation first before we fly too far on the AI. But Corey, I know you're leveraging AI a lot as well, but specifically, what have you done to help with your documentation process? Because, and the reason why I'm highlighting that is because for a lot of us here who are either solo business owners or only have 1 or 2 employees, it's a time stake. It's a time suck of things to do and making sure that you do it right. And oftentimes there's this concept that you have to do it right the first time, which causes you not to do it because you don't want to just redo something you've put in place. So, you know, Rick just ran through on some of the things he's doing to make it easier for him. So what are you doing for documentation, and how are you trying to make that easy for yourself in the business?
So first thing, we made it become part of the culture, right? So people respect what you inspect, period, right? So you have to say, here's what it ultimately comes down to. You got to say, you can't say you want to do documentation, but you never go back and check, right? And those things. So you got to be, one, creating documentation, updating documentation, because things change. And so everybody who has tech, they always say, I'm too busy, right? I'm busy, I don't have time. We all hate documentation. So what we did was, I had a guy come out, we had one of my team members get on, and I said, look, this is what we need to do from documentation. And so we kicked off and said, how do we make this easier, and how do we get time back? So we are subscribers to Scribe, right? Anybody use Scribe in here? So Scribe is a tool that you can load up, and it has a couple things. It has a web-based model, and you have ones you can download an app to your actual PC. And so when you open up Scribe, whatever's on your screen and whatever it's doing, the AI engine behind it is watching your mouse as it's going through and creating documentation automatically. It's showing you click here, you go there, you do this, and it's capturing your screen, it's going everything. And then when it's done, it will generate and says, Corey went into AutoTask, opened up, created a new user, did this, and it puts a dot where you want to. Now you can go back and edit where the dot is and where it moved, but what would take somebody hours, 5 minutes, if the most. And we gamified it. So now we have a rule that you have to create or update at least 5 pieces of documentation per week, anything and everything you document it now, because it's not an option anymore, because it is extremely, extremely easy to do it. And I guarantee you sign up for, it's like a 14-day trial. But if you go through it, you keep going, I'll tell you, you'll buy it, because it's just worth it. We do it for everything. Everybody has to document it. Operations manager documents, our payroll person document, I document, everybody documents. So there's no excuse anymore why you can't do it. We're probably going to kill it, because we actually now have that inside of AutoTask now, because they actually have a Scribe-like function that does those things. But if you don't, Scribe is definitely the way to go, because now there's no excuse for documentation anymore. When you see it and you use it, it's going to blow your mind, because it's that cool from that perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, so similar, right? For us, all of our documentation is inside of our PSA. It presents the documentation there. And so we're using SuperOps. And so it just created a knowledge base AI article creation down to the ticket level. So if we've created a ticket, we've solved something, I think either Sherpa Desk or one of the other ticketing systems had this feature where you could use comments and create articles so you can reference from before. The cool thing about inside of SuperOps, it'll allow you to create the article, and they now have the AI to be able to pull up, hey, I know that there was an article of this, or I have this issue, and it'll pull it for you, and it will summarize, hey, here's how to go ahead and solve the ticket. Do you want me to do it, right? Or reply to the person with the steps that need to be done. So that's been working out really well. What we actually are doing now is we are in a process where we're trying to figure out, do we want to do something similar, but putting our documentation inside of our Microsoft 365 tenant, allow it to be on a client by client basis, whether we're storing the documentation on their tenant or having it internally in our SharePoint information, and allowing for Copilot, because all our team uses Copilot much more than ChatGPT or some of the other chat functions, and pulling information from that. and being able to pull into the details and understanding that, all right, well, if we can grab some of this detail and information, whether it's not just what's inside of a PSA, but if it's a PDF, if it's text inside of it, the OCR technology is already pretty good. It's inside of OneDrive already. Plugging that within Copilot allows to find things a lot more faster. And so that's how we've been working on the documentation piece. We've been leveraging Scribe a little bit for some of that manual work that's not inside of the PSA, but more often we're leveraging those two pieces for our own documentation's sake. But what I can tell you is that it can even be as simple as doing an audio prompt on a Word doc or on a notepad and copying and pasting it and throwing it into a Copilot or ChatGPT. Hey, make this sound nice, and it'll actually write it out for you, saving you some time as well. It doesn't have to be as complex of trying to figure out, all right, how do I document this process, and how do I make sure I don't miss the point 2 to point 3, or, you know, this edge case might happen. So what happens when someone looks at it later on? This is where we get hung up on trying to figure out what to type, what do we write, and put in for that. I think the most important piece, and I learned this from Tim Coach, he's now over at Synomi, is there's, you know, he has built help desks, he's trained help desks, and so he did a session for us at TechCon last year, and there's 3 types of documentation that you should be creating. It's standard operating procedure, SOP, ticketing / troubleshooting, and I forgot what the third one was. It was either knowledge base or was it knowledge base? But there's acronyms behind it. It was like SOP, TTT, and I forgot what the other one is. But we'll have the updated show notes of this episode for those that want to tune into it later on. We'll reference that. And so by being able to put those 3-letter acronyms in the front of either the file name or the article name, now you can do an easy search, even if you don't want to leverage AI, because there are those that don't want to leverage AI right now. And, you know, either there's not a belief, don't believe in the cost, want nothing to do with our AI overlords that are going to take over. But the point is that, you know, it allows for you to search very easily, and it improves on standardization. You know, for us, we love acronyms for our clients. We do 4-letter designators to identify our clients across all of our systems, so we can do that search. And then we do 3-letter designators on everything from client sites. So if there's different locations, endpoint, END, networking equipment, things of that nature. So having a standardization piece helps you alleviate some unplanned work, but making it easier for the team, if you do have the ability to have a team, or more importantly, maybe you're leveraging a subcontractor or you're partnering with a neighboring MSP in case you're out of town or you're leaving. It allows them to find things a lot easier versus them having to understand your whole process, right? Now, Rick, I know I cut you off and you were going into how GPT was going into just educating you on stuff that you've known for quite some time, but it gave you a new perspective. You want to share about that on that backup situation?
It was just gave me some perspective on how to back up database. That's not really relevant, but I wanted to really touch on something that you just said too, that I think is important. Documentation is great for us, but it's also good for our clients, right? On two stairs. How many times do you get a call for a client who asks you the same thing a couple of times, right? And then if you can point them to an article that maybe even if you use something that gives them visuals, and you have it readily with your letterhead on it, and you can give them a link to it and say, hey, here's some instructions on how to do it. Because it might, just as frustrating as it is for you to get the same call, it's probably as frustrating them to keep asking you the same question, right? So if you have something you can give to them, that also is a great thing. So one of the things we do, everything we document, we make sure we publish it. And I think so that if a client asks for it, we'll maybe solve the problem. But then when we close the ticket, we will send them a link and say, hey, if you have this problem again, or if this comes up, here's how you can solve it. And really that comes in hand a lot of times with MFA, because our clients seem to always, they can't remember if they downloaded a Microsoft Authenticator, or if it's on something else. They don't remember how to do it. Or so, you know, we always send things like that out when we get a new client. If there's any something that we do that's new, we try to send them. And I think it's better if you don't just do it with words. You should use. They say all of us should be treated like 8th graders, so you use pictures just to show them exactly where they're looking, because it takes it takes a lot of strain and time, again, off of your help desk, no matter what size you are, that they don't have to deal with the same issues daily from the same people. So if you can give them something visual that they can see, and maybe they will rather make that step and read it and go through it that way than calling in and I'm not going to say wasting the help desk time, but using up time that your text could be using for something else.
I'll go back to Scribe. You're hitting around the hedge. When you finish up Scribe, you have the ability to download the full PDF, or you do it as a clickbook that goes through. And then you also have the ability to, don't be scared today, I'm on the show password. You can go back in and blur out, critical information, but you still get the sense of what's going on. And I think the biggest deal is we go down this path where we started giving what we call self-service back to the end customer. And it's a fine line, because like if I'm doing it myself, why am I paying you? But you got to think about it. I think us as MSPs in our industry, we get stuck. It says we can't do like other services organizations do because we're afraid that the customer is going to leave us, right? But if I call AT&T or call somebody else, they would be the first one to send me a document showing me how to do it, or giving me something for self-care, or doing some of the things that we need to get done. And I think one of the things that we've learned is kind of like on the sales side, we had to get out of our own way and said, this is the way we're moving. So we're going to start allowing the customers to have access to knowledge bases and things like that, and articles, MFA articles, to do some self-care, and continue to show on the backside and focus on other higher profit, things that we're getting into it, and not handling the low cases all the time, because they don't mind having a note of how to do MFA or how to reset my password or how to do those things, because other industries do it. So if I give you any advice, think about other service industries and how they do it. Your customers are automatically already used to it. You should be doing some of those things as well to push those out, and not be afraid that the customer is going to leave. Because if you feel that way, something else, not that they want to do it themselves, is that I either haven't had a conversation with them, they don't know what I'm doing, and I really don't think they understand our value of us working together.
Rick, can you say yes on this?
Yeah, somebody told me something that I didn't get until later on. Like a lot of stuff after 20 years in the business, it's really starting to click. But someone told me there's this difference between value and worth, right? What we value is different than what we think is worth. And I think a lot of times we are always trying to prove our worth to a client by saying, if they call us for something, we got to physically do it all the time. We got to do it to show them we're worth it, right? But the value in it is like, they value the solution. They don't necessarily value how much time it takes us to do it. They value the solution. So if you can give them that value in a shorter time frame, or give them something that they can keep that value, that matters more to them. And I think we get caught in that loop of, I always have to show them I'm doing something. Yeah, I think we should always show up. I think we should show up to our clients once a month if we can, and say, hey, I'm here, and walk around, and you can add value that way. But I think we do ourselves a disservice as MSPs, always trying to prove we're worth it. And I hope that makes sense as the difference in with the wording.
Yeah. No, I mean, talking about worth, right? I think a lot of people tend to really focus on, paying the bills at the end of the day, making profit, trying to get to that point. But I would implore you that, time is even worth more, right? And for the last 10 minutes, hopefully we'll go through some tools that can help save time, right? Depending on the aspect of where you're at. Oftentimes, I'll make fun of my good friend Andres over at Green Ink, and he will go ahead and tell me that he'll try to remote into certain systems, giving the handheld approach, whereas, normally you can help save some of these times by utilizing your RMM, utilizing scripting, automating your payroll. Your payroll, your invoicing, and collecting payments and things of that nature, all standard stuff. But a lot of people tend to not do that still, because they want to have their, the tangibility, make sure that they feel it and things of that nature. But what I would implore you and really saving time is doing things that are going to give you a couple minutes back in the day. Perfect example. Rick, you had mentioned, or I think it was Corey, about, leveraging and telling new clients about something new, whether it's MFA, how to use your Keeper password manager, things of that nature. Your PSA has a lot of quick reply templates, right? So are you utilizing that? Are you building out your own templates where your team can just hit a button that gives them a quick email that has the links, that has the screenshots, that tells them, hey, this is what we need to do? Is it giving them the links to certain how-tos, a new onboarding? Here's the credentials. You paste the credentials for the with a privacy link and sending it off from there. These are emails that takes you about 4, 5, 10 minutes to write, but if you save yourself 10 minutes for every onboarding that you have, cross that for how many days you do that, how many weeks, that's time you're having back that could be billable, right? And the flip side, our favorite tool that we tend to use, Microsoft, right? Trying to understand all the features that you have in there is a chore in itself, right? So I remember I called you probably almost a year ago on, hey, I'm tired of managing this by hand. What are you using? You mentioned the platform you're using. We used that for a little bit. We ended up having a partnership with another platform that did some great stuff as well. And what it does was it was a third-party SaaS capability of tying into our Microsoft system and doing the things in plain English that you want it to do. Hey, I want everybody to make sure that they have MFA. I don't want them to use text message and SMS. How do I make sure that nobody tries to get an app authorized inside of the tenant? Rather than digging into 3 different dashboards, or they're moving dashboards from security to compliance and things of that nature, how do you move from there? So I'll kind of I'll start with you, Corey. What's a tool right now that you probably can say that is saving you time, either on a daily, weekly, or on a monthly basis?
Yeah, I'm gonna go outside the box and think about one of our we have about 10 people, and so we were always concerned about our employees leaving and figuring out what it was. And so my new director of operations, she came and said, hey, we need to hire some HR people. And so we hired an HR firm, and they came in. The first thing they did with us is they did a stay interview with all of our employees. I never heard of it, never knew what it was, but they interviewed all of them to see, why would you stay? And I was thinking all of them was ready to bolt, but all of them were freaking happy to be here, ready to go. So I'm stressed about something that wasn't even there. But we had a couple things we needed to tweak, but it was a good opportunity to see where they were, what mattered, what needed to change, and were they on the same point. So that's probably one of the best tools right now, man, because all of us have challenges with employees, somebody leaving who want to go. And we're thinking that, oh my God, they got to be unhappy, it's not where they want to go. But the state interview actually turned it around and said, Corey, you can check that off your list. That's nothing you need to be stressed about. Your people's good. Make sure you keep doing what you're doing, keep communicating with them, and move on. And that calmed it down a lot. So that's one of the tools. I would say it's an outsource what we do, but it's to do a state interview. So if you have one, if you can do it yourself, worth every penny.
How about you, Rick?
You know what I'm going to say.
And it can't be what you just said earlier.
No, our favorite tool.
Okay, what's that?
Go high level. Well, a CRM. I'm not going to say, but that's my favorite tool. But I think for me, I've learned the value of that, right? And so we do so many different things in there now. It has a little client database. Anybody who's outreach to us, all of our automation for a lot of the things we're doing now, how we onboard is all built into there. How we offboard, how we anything that we could. What I'm trying to do is anything that can save us a few minutes. I'm trying to automate it, right? So that we don't have to. If we can save 3 keystrokes into 1, then let's do it that way. But for me, it has become just an invaluable piece of information from the marketing side, from the operational side, and even in some parts of the financial aspects of the business. It's been a great help. So for me, the CRM has been probably my most used and indispensable tool right now.
All right. So we got operations, talked about HR, and I'll provide you a finance one as we kind of round out the show here. I'm assuming probably a majority of people here use some type of payment processor to process credit cards. I would probably bet you're probably using Stripe. You probably all either doing it yourself or have a CPA, and you probably know it's a pain in the butt to try and calculate those fees that are automatically taken out and trying to put those back in. So there's a tool called, I think it's pronounced Acodei, ACODEI, $20 a month. It will sync all of your Stripe charges and it will pull all of the fees that were charged from those transactions and sync them back into QuickBooks. So it will allow you to have a much better picture of what's going on with your influx of payments, income, charges, and creating that line item so that you can calculate the fees as the expense that it should be for your books. So Acodei, ACODEI, hopefully that should provide some time saving for you all if you are utilizing Stripe in your payment processing and syncing into QuickBooks. I think it does sync it to Xero as well, but for sure I know for QuickBooks. So with that, I know we got about a couple minutes here. We're going to round out the episode here. Again, this is the second episode of the 3-part series. Our third part will be in Dallas on September 12th for our tour stop at TechCon Unplugged, which will be in Corey's stomping grounds. But before we sign off, is there anything, gentlemen, that we wanted to talk a little bit about of building on success now for the business moving forward? We'll give it to you, the one here.
I think, one of the biggest things you all are here, man, and thanks for coming out, is the community, right? And learning from your peers. I hope everybody here connects with one another and do it, because that's where you also learn as well. There's no such thing as, when I started 20 years ago, was competition. We'd sit in a room like this and nobody would talk to each other. Everybody would sit over there, and there'd be a whole room of silence. Now it's more cooperation, right? Where you may never know when you have to call on somebody to do it, but you got to think of it. On some of the episodes, I think you hear me say is our community is somewhat like church, right? It's like someone either in it, getting ready to go in it, still stuck in it, about to come out of it, don't know they're getting ready to go back in it. But there's somebody that's all the way around that has either been through there and willing to help. Probably coming from corporate America, this is probably one of the most freely giving communities I've ever been a part of. Be able to share, their experiences. So lean into that. That's going to help you grow your business tremendously.
Rick?
Yeah, I do want to echo that, because it's something Tahir said earlier about the truth is there really isn't competition. I know where I live, you can throw a rock and I can hit 30 MSPs by throwing a rock, but really there's enough customers to go around first and foremost. And if I can help someone succeed or they can help me succeed, then, it's just better for the community. And I think one of the greatest things I've gotten from being a part of this community, and you've all heard me say this before, if you heard me on the show at all, this is where I grew up, right? Like, this is how I learned the business, how I learned to get information, how I learned to share information. And it's made me not shy about that, really, not feel like I have to keep anything close, because it's a trustworthy community as well. So I do want to give thanks to everyone for coming out, sharing your knowledge, sharing your time. Hopefully we can give you something just as much as you're going to give to us, because I think what people always miss, and people always say, when I meet people out, they say, I learned this, I learned that. People don't realize, I say that I go and talk to people all the time. I learn just as much from anybody else as I can get, right? And that's the only way we're all going to succeed. So I encourage you all to what's the word? Commemorate?
Commemorate? Camaraderie.
Be friendly. Talk to each other. I can't think of the word, but talk to each other, share information, Even if it's just, you share a number and you call once and just say, you check in, it helps. I mean, because we all need to know, we sometimes feel like we're out on an island, but we're not alone. And it's good. And I'm just going to leave with this. It's always about community. When we put this together, we call Tahir. We don't have he owes us nothing. But he came to share, right? To give. And that's about community. That's about having people who are willing to share their knowledge and you're willing to share back. And I want to thank you for coming again to do this, because I think it's great. I think what you did this morning was awesome. But I think that's what the whole community is about. And I think that I'll sum it up with that. It says, it's all about us getting together, sharing information, and helping each other grow.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I echo that, because we already said that twice, but I think I think the biggest piece here is we're in a unique position specifically today. We're all local. We're all near each other in some way, shape, or form. Could we be viewed as competitors from someone else's eyes? Yes. But what I would like to think is that we've now built a network where we have other like-minded individuals that we can rely on. Hopefully you'll meet someone today that, you know, their personality vibes with yours. You have a lot of great conversations, and maybe it leads to something else. I mean, me and Rick met 2017, 2018 at a DC bar after the one of the conventions that splintered into what is TechCon today. And now not only are we friends, business partners, and really sharing the ability of our journeys going from there. Myself and Jason Thomas over at JTech Solutions, we met many, many years ago, have a lot of opportunities and collaborations, and not only as a network, but also as a referral work as well. What might not be a good fit for me, maybe a good fit for him, for Andres, for all those that are in the room here. And so I implore you, as you talk to everyone today, do a genuine, let's see, you know, how you can maybe help them, but also in turn, could this be a relationship you can continue after today? So we're in a unique position now that we're here local, everyone's local here. So make the most out of it. And I implore you to, because there's many relationships that can be spawned from today that may be well worth it down the line. So for all of you here in attendance, as they said, thank you for being here. For those tuning in, thank you for listening. If you would like to catch the video podcast, you can go ahead over to youtube.com/MSP Unplugged, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and you'll be notified when a new one is available for you. We are on every or most of the famous podcatcher apps that I'm aware of, but whatever Lipson puts us on, that's where we're on. So Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, to name a few. If you're trying to find out where we are for the podcast, go over to mspunplugged.com. You'll see the icon of your podcatcher app. Click on it. You'll be able to take into the subscription of the audio podcast there. From myself, Corey, and Rick, thank you again, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.